In Afghanistan's violent Kandahar province, there may not have been a more influential figure than Ahmed Wali Karzai, the half-brother of President Hamid Karzai. Wali Karzai became a victim of that violence yesterday. He was assassinated in his home by one of his bodyguards. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack, but it does remain unclear whether the group was actually involved. Wali Karzai was a power broker who was known for making deals with many of Afghanistan's tribes, militias, and insurgent groups. He was also alleged to be a drug trafficker and on the CIA's payroll. So for more on this, we are joined by CBS News consultant Jere Van Dyke. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Betty.
Well, let's get into who Wali Karzai was and what does it mean for the efforts in Afghanistan, the fact that he is now gone.
Wali Karzai was one of the four brothers of the president of Afghanistan, Ahmed Karzai. He became very close to the Americans for a number of reasons. One in particular is because he was so American. He spent a lot of time in Chicago. He had a restaurant near Wrigley Field. He spoke English with an American accent to a degree. What he became, in addition to being the brother of the president of Afghanistan, by virtue of being a part of what is called the Papazoy clan of the Durrani tribe of the Pashtun nation. It sounds a little complicated here, but what I'm saying is the Papazoys, the clan in Afghanistan, is a tribal culture. The most important question in Afghanistan is always, yesterday and today, who was your grandfather? Wali Karzai descends from, like his brother, all the kings of Afghanistan. So traditionally, his clan has all the power in Kandahar. This is where his initial power comes from. What he was able to do, however, was expand from Kandahar throughout southern Afghanistan. Wali Karzai was the most powerful man, not American, most powerful Afghan in all of southern Afghanistan by virtue of being President Karzai's brother and because of his position in the tribal structure.
So what does this mean to the U.S. forces and our efforts in Afghanistan?
What this means is that there's now a vacuum in southern Afghanistan. There is no one to fill his shoes. The United States clearly, through the CIA, relied upon him probably from 2001, maybe even before, because of his abilities to work with all tribes, and he had the trust, I am told, of even insurgents, the Taliban. Yes, and it's alleged that he had a lot of drug dealings. We've heard this for years. But more than anything else, this was the person that journalists went to, diplomats went to, and the U.S. military went to. He was our man on the ground in southern Afghanistan.
Are you surprised he was assassinated by his own bodyguard?
Yes, yes.
Why?
But this
What was behind
happens
that?
out there. I don't think it was the Taliban who killed him. I think it was some sort of possibly a tribal dispute. The man he was very close to him, he knew that he was on a suicide mission. He walked into that place, he gave that message, whatever it was, and he was killed immediately by those other bodyguards around him. Probably some sort of dispute, and like so much in Afghanistan, we will not know for a very long time why. They killed the man who had all the information. Why did he kill him? We don't know. He's dead.
I want to shift gears now to Pakistan because the U.S. has suspended some $800 million in aid to Pakistan. What kind of effect will that have?
It will have, in the short term, not a great effect. In the long term, it will have a much greater effect than possibly we want it to have. What is going on is that the United States is so upset at Pakistan, Congress in particular, that very possibly they had been keeping Osama bin Laden. We have to find a way to get them to pay for this in some way. Now, what they have said they're going to do, they being Pakistan, is pull back some of their troops from the border region. If you're not going to pay us, we are going to pull back. Well, what has happened is that the United States in 2004, when then Secretary of State Colin Powell went and talked with his counterpart, the United States convinced Pakistan for the first time in its history to go up along that border region. That entire region is a disputed area. Pakistan feels that that area belongs to them. The border was drawn by the British, and not one single Afghan legislature in the history of Afghanistan has ever approved of that border or the treaty that establishes that border. So what Pakistan is doing is going against its traditions. It's going up along the border, and so it's very easy for them to pull back a bit. Now,
What does that
Also,
do for the effort in Afghanistan and Pakistan?
What is going on right now, some of these news reports, I'm sure you're familiar with that, is that there were in the last couple of weeks 860, according to many serious news reports, Reuters and others, rocket attacks from Pakistan into Afghanistan. There are reports of 600 militants crossing from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Something very serious is very probably going to happen along that border region in the months to come. Why? General Petraeus, in his last press conference before leaving the Army now and going back to head up the CIA, has said, we've accomplished to a degree our goals in southern Afghanistan. We are now going to focus on the border region. The CIA no longer has its drones stationed in Pakistan. They are now stationed in Afghanistan, and they are attacking inside of Pakistan. So what is going on here is the war is being ratcheted up between the United States and Pakistan.
Right. We're seeing a shift.
We're seeing a shift, in great part because of what happened with Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad. And now it is coming to a point where we want them to pay for this. We're going to keep some of this money.
Right.
They're going to pay back by shooting rockets across the border, pulling their troops back, because they said our troops are along the border. Why? To keep the Taliban at bay. We're trying to prevent them, what the United States called its hammer and anvil approach. Pakistan was the anvil. The United States was the hammer. We're going to try and squeeze the Pashtuns, squeeze the militants.
Yeah.
If they pull back, they won't be able to do that.
It's a tricky situation there. All right, Jere, as always, we do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Betty.